Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a different kind of episode here at Rindle's Computer Service. Today, I just kind of got a good, interesting, inspirational topic to talk about. Kind of change pace from technology and stuff for today. I'm sure most of you out there have gotten into quarrels with people over the years and gotten into fights and or made a pompous jerk out of yourself, or you've hurt people that you really liked over the years. I'm sure everybody has had their fair share of driving people away, and I can tell you I've had my fair share of hurting people and being a pompous jerk. But over time, when you kind of isolate yourself from others, you kind of tend to reflect on the importance of not why you did what you did, but what you did was not really a healthy thing to get into. And what I'm trying to say is you should take the opportunity today to get in touch with people years ago that you may have emotionally ruined or hurted somebody, or if you got into a fight with somebody, or you got into a fallout with friends or family or something. Take the opportunity today to try to reconnect with them and try to make amends. Because the thing that you have to look at is you can't hold a grudge forever. Eventually, you gotta forgive the person. And the worst thing is, let's say that a friend or something dies, or a relative dies that you had a quarrel with, or you had a falling out with, or you told the person that you hated them so much that you wish they were dead. That's a horrible thing to say to somebody, if you think about it. To tell somebody that you hate them that much, it's it's not only is it shamefully horrible to say, but it's also very sinful. And what's worse is if the person dies a short while later, you can't exactly go back to that person and beg for their forgiveness. So let's just take the opportunity to make amends with everybody, because you don't want to die with that on your conscience. Because the more people that you forgive and the more amends that you make, when when your time comes, God will consider or put that into consideration, that He's able to, or that you're, because you don't want to die with hatred on your soul. Basically, there's a lot of other things that you have to do to when you make your amends, and not every person will forgive you, but it's just the thought that counts of doing, even though that not everybody will forgive, and then there's some that they move on and that they've totally forgotten about what's happened in the past, and then there's some people out there that'll sit and stew about it for decades, and it's not a healthy thing to sit and dwell about stuff that was in the past either, because psychologically it'll affect your mindset. It'll give you a lot of setbacks. Like, it'll basically keep you from succeeding in life, like becoming an executive or getting your college education, or starting a family, or just making something of yourself. And a lot of times, those people that stew in their self-pity of things that happened years ago. A lot of times those people, their health will deteriorate not only psychologically and emotionally, but physically. Things will happen to them because of the guilt. So why live with that? Why not make a change today? Why not? Not only will you feel better spiritually and physically, but you can go to bed at night with the peaceful thinking of that you know that the other person's at peace as well. But it's very interesting to make amends with people, and it's kind of interesting to hear what they're up to and what they're doing with their lives, and there's some people out there that have changed dramatically since like high school or grade school. There's some that have matured quite well, and then there's some that never grew up. And eventually, all people once there are some people that are late bloomers, and then there's some people that are very mature for their age. And then there's some that's by the age of 25 that they stop partying and that they get serious and finish their college education, or there's some at the age of 18 that are seriously ready to buckle down and get going with school. And because even those people in college, theoretically, you really shouldn't party when you're doing a college education. I know there's some people that have succeeded, but not everybody. When you're doing drugs and you're doing drinking and stuff like that, you're not gonna. Your potential for succeeding in school is kind of plummeted. But for the amount that you pay for your education, you might as well make the best of it and not waste your money or your parents' money or relatives or because if you flunk out of school, people will hold that against you for life. So I have to admit, college education is not easy to get through, especially if you're going for a master's degree or a bachelor's degree. Even an associate's degree is not the easiest. But all those people out there that get their college degrees and they do it successfully well, I got to give those people a lot of credit because it's not easy. And financially, it's not easy either. And even those that are able to hold down part-time jobs while doing like 3 classes a week or 5 classes a week or 3 classes a day per like okay 12 classes a week. I don't know how everybody can manage to divide up their time up equally for each. I imagine that most people probably pull all-nighters just to be able to study for all those tests and do the homework, and it's just kind of interesting. But enough about that subject. Basically, the thing is, you gotta think twice before what you say to people, or if you got a snide remark or something, think about it in your head. Is that really how I want to be treated? Because basically, bottom line is you treat people how you want to be treated. If you treat people with respect, people will treat you with respect. But if you treat people like scum, they will treat you like scum. And that's actually a very hard lesson that I had to learn the hard way. I would have to say by the time I was out of high school, I pretty much turned myself around when it came to that. But prior to that, I was kind of a scum. I'd have to say I was a scumbag years ago, and not everybody's perfect. But that's I'm not gonna get into the whole thing of what I did. But life is interesting, and there's always interesting opportunities that come your way. And one more thing I'll put: you never know what God has in store for you. If you don't ever listen to what He has to say, how will you ever know what you're supposed to do? There's some people out there that think that they're supposed to be priests or pastors or nuns, but not everybody's cut out for the secular life either. It's like there's some people that aren't meant to be doctors. There are some people that aren't meant to be teachers, and then there's some that are meant to be in those fields. But the thing is, you don't want to step out of faith on making these decisions. You always want to make sure that it's whatever's in God's will. Because if you don't do what He wants you to do, He'll let you know one way or another. He probably won't physically come down and rebuke you, but He'll use somebody or someone else as a form of. There's so many interesting topics you can get into about how to know what you're supposed to do in life and what you're. Because basically, it's kind of a beautiful thing how a person or goes through life and carries out God's plans. It's a beautiful thing to see. And basically, it's like even with me, I never actually knew I would actually have a storefront rental. I never actually saw that coming. A year ago, a year and let's see how many months I think that was. A year and 3 months. I never saw myself having a nice place like this. I don't own the place. I just rent the room here. But another reason why was able to get into this place was the owners of the building. I've known them for many years. I actually had one of their sons as a history teacher, and it was actually a very very nice family. So that's, or is even like you never would have thought that. You kind of wonder to yourself, why am I doing certain things at certain times of my life? Well, that's because that's all part of God's will. Even though that it might be puzzling why you're doing certain jobs at certain times, or you run into certain people at certain times of your life. It's even like that pastor in Manitowoc that I was doing business with. One night we had a fallout with each other. It was one. Set the record straight. It was my fault for what happened, but after sitting and pondering about it for weeks after, and the reason I never got back to the guy was basically sometimes God uses people like that for a season, or once you learn something from them, or they learn something from you, or you accomplish what God wanted you to do, and sometimes you wonder, how come I never see these people again? it is actually very interesting about that, on why you run into certain people at certain times of your life, and because you never know what's going to happen. It's even like there's like one lady I ran into one time. I didn't know who she was, where she was from, but she came and reassured me that everything was going to turn out. And I didn't. It amazed me that she knew my circumstance, but yet I never even met the woman, and that was like 3, 4 years ago. And she showed up at the church. She didn't belong to the church. I don't even know where she was from, but she just came in and reassured me that everything was fine, and then she walked away, and I went outside to see where she went, and I couldn't even. I didn't never. It's like she just vanished into thin air, and I was sitting thinking about it for a while, and I was thinking, huh, I bet you that she was some kind of guardian angel, or one of God's angels. I never did figure out who it was, but the thing is, you got to open your heart to God. You got to open your heart to, because by turning away from God, that's all fine and good, but life is so shallow without religion. Life is shallow without God. And even I'm realizing that there's much more to life than materialistic things, or being obsessed with like women, cars, building, shopping, or hoarding things, or accumulating tons of inanimate objects. There's some people out there that'll sit and worship inanimate objects. It's like those people out there that are worshiping the coronavirus right now, with worshiping masks and worshiping hand sanitizer and worshiping social distancing, uh, worshiping disinfectant cleaners. They're just worshiping this whole virus altogether. It's not healthy to do. It's not God's will. But God allows these things to happen for a reason. Because a lot of people are very unfaithful to Him. There's a lot of lukewarm Christians out there, a lot of lukewarm Catholics and other religious people. But basically, that's the devil taking over. Because basically, God gave the devil the 21st century. And the thing is, you gotta take the approach of, at some point in time, that you need to go back to church, because you don't want to die on your conscience of turning away God, or denying His existence, or using blasphemy against Him, or taking His name in vain. You're ruining your relationship with God. You're ruining your relationship with Jesus Christ. It's not healthy. You gotta make a change before it's too late. You gotta do something while you got the time. Because if you don't ever make the determination to go back to God, chances are you won't make it to heaven if you don't repent, or if you don't go back to church, or go to confession, or whatever it is that you do to make it right with God. And you also got to pray. Doesn't matter how you pray, but you have to pray for. And a lot of people hate this, but you got to pray for the president. You got to pray to your congressmen that God will tell them what they need to do and to change things for the better. You got to pray for world peace. You got to pray to end violence, end the protesting, and just kind of doesn't matter what time of day you pray. Doesn't matter when you pray, but you just pray in general. Just doesn't matter how you start out the prayer. Doesn't matter if you talk to God or if you use a prayer form or a rosary or something. It doesn't matter. But you got to make the effort. God loves the person, but He hates the sin. You gotta do something. You can't expect everybody else to pray for you. Only you can make a difference with your prayers. So on that note, I know that this is not the kind of video that is popular or exciting, but sometimes you gotta bring the fire and brimstone out and wake people up. Because if you don't do it, nobody else is gonna do it. And there's a lot of people out there that don't want to hear anything about religion or anything about any of this, but you have to come to the realization that He didn't just magically appear on earth. Everybody's God's children. And the thing that you have to realize is if by disobeying God or breaking the Ten Commandments, not only are you jeopardizing yourself, but you're making God mad. And chances are you're not going to make it to heaven. But that's not for us people. Only God can make those final judgments. We as the people cannot determine who's going to go to heaven or hell. Only God can make those final judgments. And a lot of people, they don't realize that. But for all the things that go on out in California with some of their goofy festivals and their pride things, that's not God's will either. Some of those people out there are so mixed up, they don't really know what's expected of them. And that's basically the devil taking over those people, making them behave the way they do, and saying some of the heinous things that they say. And it's also partially the person's fault for participating in some of the activism and some of the riots and some of the festivals and stuff that it not only is it unhealthy, but in God's eyes, that's not what He wants His people to be doing. He doesn't want to be sitting there worshiping golden calves and worshiping statues and even for the people that are in Catholicism, they're not really worshiping actual statues either. Basically, you gotta look at it from both sides. The reason they pray to Mary is Mary intercedes to God. And that's another topic for another day. But the thing that you got to keep in the realism here is that you gotta make you gotta make amends with people, and because the sooner you do it, the better you'll feel. So I'd advise make an effort, even if you can't do it all in one day. Just take it one day at a time. Rome was not built in a day, so let's. I hope that sinks in. God bless everybody. Stay safe and enjoy the hot, muggy weather if you're in Wisconsin.